Hey, welcome back to Real Scent Review. I know I'm a little bit late to the party. There's only about 1 month left of fall as of right now. But you know, I thought I'd throw together for you guys a top 10 list of awesome fall fragrances. Now, this is not some top 10 list of the most hyped, hot new releases of 2023. No. This list consists of a mix of fragrances that I find to be just unique, high quality, generally high performance, and in my opinion, really solid choices. Some of them might have been hyped when they were released, but a lot of these are kind of under the radar. So without any further ado, let's begin. First on the list is Guerlain's L'Homme Idéal L'Intense. This one is my absolute favorite from the line. The main notes we're gonna get in this one, of course, we're gonna get some cherry and almond, but also there's some chili pepper and a little bit of suede. So this one, of course, we're gonna get the cherry, almond, vanilla, typical of the line, but this one differentiates itself with a little bit of chili pepper. Also, there's some smoke and suede in the dry down here. Very unique one compared to the rest of the offerings in the line. I mean, you can tell the DNA is very similar. That almond, it's a little bit of a creamy almond. You get some vanilla and that cherry, but the cherry in this one is spiced up because of that chili pepper. And this dries down with some nice, very dusty suede. It's almost leathery, and there's a little touch of smoke as well. This one here, when I first smelled it, it was an immediate love. I was already a fan of the rest of the line, but not enough to, you know, consider buying a full bottle of any of them until I found this one, immediately purchased a full bottle. So in my opinion, this is the most masculine of the line. The performance isn't like super crazy, but it's still very good. And for a fall fragrance, this is very unique. There's nothing else that quite smells like this one. Highly recommended if you want to stand out a little bit in the fall weather. It's got some chili pepper, but don't worry, it's not overly spicy. In fact, it's a very palatable spice, and the smoke in the bottom is very light, as is the suede. But yeah, what we're getting here is essentially very spicy cherry with creamy almond, vanilla, and some dusty smoke in the dry down. Fantastic offering from this line. It's spicy, it's sensual, it's smooth. Definitely one of my most complimented fragrances. Not that I even care about that, but I can totally see why, because it's very high quality, it's unique, but it's not off-putting, it's still appealing. Just a masterpiece from the house of Guerlain. Next one here is Loewe Siete Anonimo. This is going to be for fans of incense. So the main notes we're going to get in this one, incense, vetiver, and pepper. This is a mature one. It's very classy. Young people are not going to like this one. The incense is very smoky, very resinous, and there's also some very dry, herbal, kind of grassy vetiver, and some spicy, dry pepper. My goodness, just smelling the cap here reminds me how much I love this one. As if I need any reminders. But yeah, this one here, spectacular. It's totally under the radar. Very few people have heard of this, and even fewer are going to be wearing this. So if you really want to differentiate yourself in fall, get this one. But like I said, it's very mature. Young people aren't gonna like this. It kind of reminds me of Azzaro Visit, but this one is stronger, it's drier. It has none of that kind of fresh mintiness. No. This is dry all around. It's all about the incense in this one. This kind of smells like if Encre Noir à l'Extrême and Azzaro Visit had a baby, and the baby came out wearing a suit and tie and went to church. So that's what this one reminds me of. All about that smoky incense, like I said. Spectacular offering from Loewe. If you're an incense fan, you gotta check this one out. Next on the list is La Yuqawam Pour Homme by Rasasi. Everybody knows this one at this point. It's a clone or a dupe of Tom Ford's Tuscan Leather. I think this is better. It's more rounded, it's not quite as animalic, but other than the fact that this is just more rounded in terms of being less animalic, they smell the exact same. The quality on this one is sky high, same exact high quality as the Tom Ford, and the performance on this one is even better. This scent is so beautiful. Very well done fragrance here. So the main notes we're gonna get: raspberry, some dry, dusty leather, and some smoky incense in the bottom. The raspberry is very tart. It's not a sweet raspberry. And of course, we're gonna get that dusty, dry leather, which is, I wanna say, a tiny bit animalic, but nowhere near as animalic as the leather in Tuscan Leather. This is much more palatable, more rounded. I just think it's the superior scent. And of course, in the dry down, we get that touch of incense. Just such a good fragrance here. I can't recommend this one enough. Another reason why I recommend this one is because this can be had for far less than Tuscan Leather. And like I said, the quality is just the same, and this performs better. La Yuqawam by Rasasi. And now we have Versace's Oud Noir. My God. This masterpiece released by Versace totally shocked me when I found this. I could not believe that this came from a designer house. This smells just spectacular. It smells way more expensive than it actually is. So the most prominent notes in this one are going to be bitter orange, patchouli, and olibanum. This one here is sweet. It's very deep. This is so good. Opens up with some mandarin orange. We get a deep, spicy, kind of ever so slightly chocolatey patchouli, and it's a very resinous, kind of dry incense in the bottom. The name is Oud Noir. Now, I do get like a touch of oud in the background, which is kind of like a smoky wood, but it is not overpowering at all. In fact, the oud in this, you kind of have to try really hard to detect it. But other than the fact that it doesn't really have that much oud, in fact, I'm not even sure if it's real oud, just an oud accord. This is a stupendous fragrance. The performance is excellent. The quality of this blend is just phenomenal. On this list, this is definitely one of the best, in my opinion. And it's so warm, spicy, sensual, sexy, a little bit mature. This is going to be one for a distinguished gentleman out there, although it doesn't go classic or dated or old manny at all. I do think you have to have a little bit of experience in perfumery in order to appreciate this one. So this one is going to be a little bit hard to find. It's been discontinued for a while now, but periodically this does show up on discounters. I highly recommend this one. Next up is Azzaro's Wanted by Night. Don't know what happened to the cap. I moved to a different city a few months ago and I think the cap got lost in the move. Anyway, cap doesn't matter, it's what's on the inside of the bottle that matters. Mass appealing, yes, but it's still quite unique. So the main notes in this one are going to be cinnamon, mandarin orange, tobacco, and cedar. And there's also like a touch of incense in the background. But we're going to get blasted with a touch of spicy, earthy, kind of sweet cinnamon in the beginning. And that's mixed with a mandarin orange, very sweet orange. There's an earthy, sweet tobacco and a woody, kind of fresh cedar wood note in the dry down. That's kind of mixed with that incense accord. Now, some people will say that this is a little bit on the juvenile side, might be a little bit synthetic, sure, but you know what? As far as affordable fragrances go, this one is spectacular. You can't go wrong. It's extremely versatile. It's a little bit sweet, but it's not cloyingly sweet. It doesn't go totally like Invictus or Stronger With You, for example, although I definitely do get aspects of both of those fragrances in this. In some parts of the fragrance, it almost kind of reminds me of like an Invictus Eau de Toilette mixed with Stronger With You Eau de Toilette with a little bit of cedar and incense in the bottom. But that kind of doesn't really last the entire life of the fragrance here, but I do get tinges of both of those fragrances that I just mentioned. But this is just, in my opinion, so much better than both of those. And it's still unique because it has that tobacco note, there's a woodiness, and of course that touch of incense. This is perfect for fall nights if you're walking around with your loved one, warm, sensual, and in the cooler air, the incense note really takes off in this. It's such a good fragrance here, and it's relatively cheap if you can find it on discounters. Pick this one up. This can be a dumb reach for your fall rotation. Next up is M7 by Yves Saint Laurent. Now this one here is famous because it was one of the first designer fragrances to include the note of oud. It wasn't the first, but it was the first one to actually make the oud note famous in the Western world. So the main notes that we're going to get in this are mandarin, patchouli, and myrrh. We get the sweet orangey mandarin with an earthy kind of sweet patchouli, and this dries down with some resinous myrrh. And also, of course, we get the oud in the background. It's a very light oud, but it is detectable. The oud accord in this, for example, is more detectable than the oud accord in Versace's Oud Noir, for example. But at the same time, it's still not overpowering. The oud in this, in the dry down, is mixed with some labdanum, so it's going to give it a leathery kind of feel. Now, the mixture of the oud and the labdanum and the myrrh can give this kind of a dirty, animalic, old school thing. If you remember the dry down to Koros, also by YSL, the dry down in this is kind of like a really toned down version of that Koros dry down. So it's a little bit animalic, a little bit resinous, but we get that sweet mandarin and earthy, spicy patchouli to counteract it. And it's just a phenomenal fragrance. If you're an intermediate or advanced collector, say you have at least 25 bottles, you gotta add this one if you don't already have it. Another inexpensive fragrance that punches far above its price tag, Missoni Pour Homme Parfum. This one has been my daily driver for a little while now. I wear this one so frequently. I wear it to the gym, I wear it out at night, I wear it when I'm going downtown for a meeting, whatever. Just super versatile. Smells fantastic. The main notes in this one are gonna be grapefruit, lavender, geranium, and musk. And there's definitely a woodiness in the background from oak, which is not quite as prominent as the other notes that I mentioned here. This one gets compared a lot of the time to Bleu de Chanel, especially the Eau de Parfum. And while I do, I kind of understand why. This one for me leans more so into aromatic fougere territory. I definitely get a barbershop vibe from this. It reminds me a lot of Chanel's Platinum Egoist. But it's not quite as classic smelling as that one. It definitely takes aspects of Bleu de Chanel. We definitely get the aromatic fougere tinges that are present in Platinum Egoist. But this one is modernized a little bit. Like I said, it has aspects of Bleu de Chanel, citruses, and some musk in the dry down, and there's a woodiness to it. I'd say it leans a little bit mature, but it's just so versatile. You don't have to worry about throwing this one on. Again, it's another dumb reach scent. You can wear it anywhere, but it has a professionalism to it. It has a sexy kind of allure. Very masculine, can't go wrong with this one, and you can have this one for a very, very, very good price at most discounters. Next one on this list, Montale's Vetiver Patchouli. Now this is my favorite fragrance of all time. Love it, had to include it on this fall list. Not only because it's my favorite, but also because this is a perfect fall scent. Opens up with some mineralic carrot, then we get some sweet, almost chocolatey patchouli. It's ever so slightly spicy, kind of, and then it dries down into a really grassy vetiver. And the vetiver kind of has a little bit of a smoky, tiny bit of a smoky tinge to it in the dry down. Man, this is like the perfect fragrance as far as I'm concerned. And when I say vetiver, people a lot of times get scared because they think of like an old man. This fragrance is not that. It smells very modern, and it's very unique because that carrot accord in the top, that doesn't exist in a lot of fragrances out there. And it just works so well in this. It gives it a fresh, but also sweet and mineralic, kind of watery carrot note in the beginning, which works so well with that sweet, kind of spicy patchouli. And like I said, that grassy, almost smoky vetiver in the dry down. My favorite fragrance of all time. And for a Montale, this is not extremely bombastic. This scent is not going to invade anybody's privacy, but you'll still get noticed, and I guarantee you the attention will be very positive with this one. I cannot believe that this one does not receive more attention. It's like totally under the radar. Hardly anybody has heard of this, but I just think it's one of the best fragrances ever released. Vetiver Patchouli by Montale. Let's go with another niche, shall we? Oud Imperial Eau de Toilette by Perris Monte Carlo. So yeah, this has oud in the name, but unlike Versace Oud Noir, the oud in this one is very noticeable. But before I say anything else, it's not the fecal animalic type of oud, it's the medicinal kind of astringent, sour, woody type of oud. So the main notes in this one are going to be oud and cedar, with supporting roles being played by myrrh and birch tar in the dry down. The oud in this one is very spicy, and it dries down to a very concentrated cedar. This smells like you're in the middle of a forest, damp cedar, but it's fresh at the same time. So very green, very fresh, damp, woody cedar. This is probably the best rendition of cedar I've ever found in a fragrance here. It's called Oud Imperial, but I think a more appropriate name would be Cedar Imperial. Although in the opening, the oud is quite strong. This is not going to be for beginners. And in the bottom, we get some myrrh, which is going to give it a camphoric, slightly minty, resinous touch. And that's going to be paired with some birch tar, so some charred wood, kind of smoky in the bottom. Also, I think I get some papyrus, so you're going to get that kind of pencil shaving feeling. Think Encre Noire à l'extrême in the dry down. That's kind of what this smells like, only this is like 10 times stronger. So again, not going to be for close quarters encounters. This is going to be perfect for a fall evening stroll through the park, maybe an outdoor fancy dinner. Phenomenal fragrance here, very powerful. If you're a fan of woody fragrances, you got to check this one out. And last but not least, we get Oud Malaki from Chopard. This is one of those examples of a designer fragrance that smells absolutely niche. This can rival a lot of niche fragrances that I've smelled in my experience. So good. The main notes we're gonna get in this one are saffron, tobacco, honey, cardamom, and myrrh. So we're gonna be met with some very spicy tobacco in the beginning. We're gonna be met with a big blast of saffron, which is going to add an earthy spice. Then it's some sweet, earthy tobacco, mixed with some honey. There's also some cardamom, which is going to give it a warm spice. And there's some myrrh, which is going to give it a camphoric resinous touch, kind of like mentholated in a way. In the far dry down, we get some leather mixed with guaiac wood. So it's a very oily leather mixed with some kind of smoky wood, but the smoky wood is very, very light in this. This is the ultimate classy scent, I think, for fall, you know. It's warm, it's rich, it's alluring, but it's certainly not gourmand. This is more so just, it's kind of warm, and there's a little bit of a balsamic accord because of the honey. So if you've ever smelled black incense Malaki, which is this guy's younger brother, in black incense Malaki, there's a very prominent accord of like dirty, oily leather mixed with some smoke and a little bit of oud. Some people say that that smells industrial. That same kind of accord does exist in this one, but in this one it is toned way, way the hell down, and it's also, you know, overpowered by that earthy sweet tobacco and the balsamic honey. So this is not nearly as divisive as black incense Malaki, although they do share some similar DNA. It's classy. It's got just the right amount of performance. It's not too strong, but it's definitely not weak. It's got moderate to strong projection, probably less than an arm's length for an hour and a half, but the longevity on this one is great. You're gonna have people wanting to get in closer to you to smell you. Although, again, I must say, I don't think this is for beginners. I think this requires a little bit of experience in perfumery in order to appreciate it. This is such a complex fragrance. It goes through stages. It's so amazing. Definitely one of the best choices for fall that you can make. Oud Malaki by Chopard. So anyway, guys, there you have it. My top 10 best fall fragrances for 2023. No hype. None of these is going to be on, you know, anybody else's top 10 lists for fall of this year. I don't do that top 10 hottest new releases thing. I'm more so about finding things that are under the radar, very good quality and unique to share with you guys. And that's my thing. That's what this channel is really all about. So I hope you've appreciated this list. There will be more lists to come. Until next time, guys, keep it real.